YCS Sydney Australia took place over the weekend, and it should have been a high-profile, highly publicized, and promoted event that completely captivated the Yu-Gi-Oh community for the entire weekend, as this is technically the first standard singles YCS of the post-Phantom Nightmare meta, aka Year of Fire. But instead, not only was there little to no buzz and hype surrounding the event, but hardly anyone even realized that the tournament was going on in the first place. Seriously, my Discord is full of Yu-Gi-Oh nuts and near lifelong players, and most of them were like, there's a YCS going on this weekend? Man, stop playing, there ain't no YCS. Now, is this because we in the Yu-Gi-Oh community are just that disconnected with the game? Or could it have been that Konami just put forth the most pathetic excuse for YCS tournament coverage I think I've ever seen in my entire life? Some of you might know that on Mondays after YCS events, I traditionally post a recap video in a series I call What the Heck Happened at YCS Blank. Obviously the blank is wherever the YCS took place. In this series, I talk about attendance numbers, meta trends, and tech choices that I noticed. I cover some of the interesting feature matches or discuss cool or puzzling things that happened during them. I'll touch on the top cut breakdown, and I'll try to provide some available deck lists. Then ultimately I congratulate the winner and I talk about what won the tournament. However, for YCS Sydney, I basically couldn't do any of that, because for whatever reason, Konami essentially decided that they weren't going to have any coverage for this event. That's it. No live stream, no written feature matches, no pictures of the venue, side events, or players, and no written coverage of stuff like tech updates, player interviews, or really anything that even gave the slightest impression that they actually gave a crap about this tournament. Whenever I criticize Konami in videos like this, I always like to ask myself, are you being fair? Are you being reasonable? Are you asking too much? And quite frankly, I'll leave that up to you and the audience this time around. You can just leave that in the comment section below. Is it fair, reasonable, or asking too much for an $8 billion company to put out the smallest bit of effort in promoting and showcasing the largest tournament series for their flagship IP? I understand the idea that sometimes Konami will host YCS events outside of North America and Europe, and that they won't always have access to the best technology and maybe things like fiber internet service that can be found in large American metropolitan cities. But if that's the case, and they know that hosting a live stream won't be possible for every event, why don't they at least have written coverage and feature matches as a bare minimum for every YCS? Personally, I don't think it's unreasonable to expect the standards of 2024 to be as high as what we were routinely getting going as far back as 20 years ago during GX era and GOAT format. For those who aren't in the know, every Shonen Jump championship way back in the GX and 5Ds eras used to have written coverage, and this is before we ever thought of the idea of having live streams at Yu-Gi-Oh events. And guess what? Those work perfectly fine. Back in those days, Konami would take a team of maybe 3 to 4 people who would just write up feature matches on their laptops, take pictures of the venue and the players, do written deck profiles as well as team profiles. They'd have other segments about tech choices they noticed, or make predictions about the tournament as a whole. And despite all of this being in written form like a blog, it was still highly engaging and entertaining for players at home like myself. Fast forward 20 years, and somehow we've taken 10 steps backwards to the point that like half of the YCSs in Latin America or Oceania might as well have no coverage at all, because what they're actually giving us is pretty pathetic, and in my opinion, less than nothing. Want to know how I got information relating to YCS Sydney? Most of it came from Lampy Yu-Gi-Oh, aka Sebastian Lemke, who you've probably seen doing excellent commentary on the European YCS circuit. He just so happened to be posting updates about the event on Twitter. This includes the number of entries for Sydney, which was reportedly about over 900 players, as well as the top 32 breakdown, which, for disclosure, Konami themselves did provide, albeit it would be nice if they would have posted it in some sort of chart form, which is obviously a lot easier on the eyes, and they traditionally do this, but they just didn't for this specific event. Some of the deck lists also came from Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Decks Twitter account and their main website, where they post download links for all the decks and make it very easy to go through the decks card by card. My point is, the little bit of information that we got on the YCS didn't come out in some organic way from Konami themselves like normal, but instead from outside parties via Twitter post. To me, I just find it baffling that a company would spend all this money, travel around the world for these events, then sometimes just arbitrarily decide, you know what, we're really not doing any coverage today. That's right, we're gonna put less effort into the coverage for this event than we did 2 decades ago. It just makes no sense at all. Konami, please just fix this. Hire some writing staff. You probably only need 2 to 3 people. Get them passports and laptops, a phone that can take pictures, and just make sure they know Yu-Gi-Oh! So they can accurately describe and understand what they're writing about. Hell, you can even reach out to someone like me and I'll do it for you, because what you're offering to us right now is garbage. I mean, this is borderline embarrassing that it's 2024 and your coverage is basically a ticker page that just shows round pairings and the standings after each round. We don't get any context of how things are going down or what's happening. There's zero fun or interesting feature matches that show off anything cool, no talking to the players, and really it just feels like there's no immersion at all. To the actual event of YCS Sydney Australia itself, which looks like it could have been a lot of fun to watch or read, again if they even bothered to do the slightest bit of coverage, because it had some really cool decks in the top cut. Of course, we saw Fire Kings and Snake Eye Fire Kings, or at this point let's just say Fire, dominate the event as the entire top 8 consisted of Fire decks, with actually a perfect 4-4 split between Fire King Snake Eye and Pure Snake Eye. Fire wasn't as dominant as one would have expected. In fact, if I would have made predictions for this event, I think I probably would have overshot, because Fire put 19 players in the top 32, which is basically 60%, and you know, although that is still very high, it's not quite the 80% that we saw just, you know, a little while ago at YCS Las Vegas, Nevada. We also saw a plethora of cool and interesting rogue decks making it to the top cut, like my beloved Vanquish Soul, Salamangreat, Phantom Knight Horus, Purely, Branded, and would you believe, one absolute mad lad playing Sharks of all things. Yes, Sharks actually topped a YCS championship, and I mean, if you had Sharks on your bingo card, like, don't even worry about hitting the other circles. We'll just give you bingo at this point. I'll be honest, outside of watching some Daddy Shark videos, that's a Yu-Gi tuber who pretty much specializes in shark and kind of like water XC content, I don't know a ton about the shark deck. I know that it's gotten better recently because now you can turn those Bahamut sharks into other XCs and you can actually rank up multiple times for free. And double totally awesome if you're able to pull off the full combo is just one hell of a turn one. So this could be a deck to look out for moving forward. You know, usually when a rogue deck ends up topping a YCS, it does have some, it does see an increase in popularity over the next couple of weeks. And I do know that, or I do think that Sharks are going to get better post Battles of Legends in July because they'll get another XC monster that further expands their plays. Personally, I think that decks like the Shark deck, Vanquish Soul, PK Horus, and the one dinosaur player who started out 6-0 would have been really great candidates to feature for like feature matches or, you know, maybe deck profiles or anything like that if Konami would have done some coverage. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up with my main point of the video, and that is that Konami's either being lazy or incompetent, and honestly both are just terrible for a company their size. They need to get their stuff together. Just hire some people or me to do event coverage, because you shouldn't have YCS events that are going on and people don't know that the event is happening or no one cares, because with the effort that they're putting out, it kind of looks like they don't care. This was the first standard YCS of the post Phantom Nightmare format, and it ended up being a complete dud that no one's really talking about, and it's simply because they didn't do their job. So hopefully in the future, you know, they'll get better at this, but maybe that is doing too much. Anyways, whatever you guys think about that, if you guys think that I'm asking for too much, you leave that in the comment section below. Or if you think that it's poppycock and hogwash that Konami is not doing a better job, leave that in the comment section below as well. Once again, check out my Patreon where you can support the channel for just as low as $1 a month. And thank you for watching as always.